Think better. JustProfessor here. You think someone is smart, so you treat them like they're smart. They start acting smarter. You think someone is lazy, so you treat them like they're lazy. They become lazier. Your expectations are literally creating the behavior you expected, and you think you were just observing what was already there. Your expectations about people change how they perform. When you believe someone is capable, talented, or intelligent, they actually become more capable, talented, and intelligent. When you believe someone is incompetent or limited, they perform worse. This isn't magic or positive thinking. It's a real psychological phenomenon called the Pygmalion effect. Your beliefs about people change how you treat them in subtle ways, and that different treatment changes their actual performance. You're not just observing reality, you're creating it with your expectations. The Pygmalion effect is when higher expectations lead to higher performance. When someone believes in another person's potential, that person lives up to those expectations through a series of small behavioral changes on both sides. The person with high expectations treats the other person in ways that communicate belief and create opportunities. The person receiving those expectations internalizes them and changes their self-concept and effort level. The result is actual improvement that confirms the original expectation. This happens because expectations create self-fulfilling prophecies through multiple channels. When you expect someone to succeed, you give them more challenging tasks, more detailed feedback, more patience when they struggle, and more recognition when they do well. This creates better learning conditions. Meanwhile, the person receiving these signals picks up on your confidence in them. They start to see themselves as capable, their self-image changes, their effort increases, their performance improves. The problem is, this works in both directions. Positive expectations create positive outcomes, but negative expectations create negative outcomes just as powerfully. When you expect someone to fail or struggle, you unconsciously treat them in ways that make failure more likely. You give them easier tasks, less feedback, less patience, and less recognition. They pick up on your low expectations. Their self-image drops. Their effort decreases. They perform worse. And you think you were right about them all along. This makes your beliefs about people incredibly powerful. You're not a neutral observer of others' abilities. You're an active creator of those abilities through the expectations you hold and the behaviors those expectations generate. Most people never realize they're doing this. They think they're accurately perceiving what people are capable of, when actually they're shaping what people become capable of. Let me show you how the Pygmalion effect shapes outcomes in ways people don't see. The original study that discovered this effect happened in classrooms. Researchers told teachers that certain students were likely to show major intellectual growth that year. These students were actually chosen randomly, but the teachers believed they were special. By the end of the year, those randomly selected students actually showed greater IQ gains than other students. The teacher's expectations literally changed the students' measured intelligence. This happened because the teachers unconsciously treated the high expectation students differently. They called on them more. They gave them more time to answer. They provided more detailed feedback. They showed more warmth and encouragement. These small differences in treatment created real differences in learning and performance. The students absorbed the message that they were capable and acted accordingly. Workplace performance shows the Pygmalion effect constantly. A manager believes a new employee has high potential. They give that employee interesting projects, introduce them to important people, provide mentoring, and overlook early mistakes as learning experiences. The employee thrives, confirms the manager's belief, and gets promoted. Another employee starts with a manager who has neutral or low expectations. They get routine work, less attention, less tolerance for mistakes, and fewer opportunities. They stagnate or leave. Both managers would say they were responding to the employee's actual abilities, but they were creating those abilities through differential treatment based on their initial expectations. The high-potential employee might have been no better at the start, but the Pygmalion effect made them better by the end. Parenting demonstrates this effect in powerful ways. Parents who believe their children are smart, capable, and will succeed treat those children differently than parents who believe their children are limited. High-expectation parents give children more autonomy, more challenging activities, more patience with struggle, and more celebration of achievement. Children internalize these messages and develop confidence and competence. Low expectation parents protect children from challenges, solve problems for them, accept lower performance, and communicate doubt. Children internalize these messages too and develop lower confidence and capability. The tragic part is parents usually base their expectations on early observations, but those early observations get amplified into real differences through the Pygmalion effect. A child who starts slightly behind gets treated as less capable, which makes them fall further behind, which confirms the parent's expectations in a downward spiral. Teaching shows the effect clearly. Teachers with high expectations for students create learning environments where those students flourish. They ask probing questions, provide rich explanations, give substantive feedback, and maintain high standards. Students rise to meet these expectations. Teachers with low expectations create environments where students languish. They ask simple questions, give surface explanations, provide minimal feedback, and accept mediocre work. Students meet these low expectations instead. The students labeled as struggling get less of what would actually help them improve. The differential treatment based on expectations creates the very performance gap the teacher expected to see. Relationships involve Pygmalion effects on both sides. You expect your partner to be supportive and thoughtful. You treat them with appreciation and respect. They live up to your positive expectations. Or you expect them to be selfish and difficult. You treat them with suspicion and criticism. They become more defensive and difficult, confirming your expectations. Your beliefs about who they are shape who they become in the relationship. Job interviews show the Pygmalion effect in quick time. An interviewer forms an early positive impression of a candidate. They unconsciously give that candidate an easier interview, asking softball questions, making conversation comfortable, highlighting positives. The candidate performs well. Another candidate triggers a neutral or negative initial impression. They get harder questions, less warmth, more scrutiny. They perform worse. The interviewer thinks the difference was in the candidates, not realizing their own expectations shaped the performance. Medical care demonstrates concerning Pygmalion effects. Doctors who expect patients to recover and respond well to treatment communicate hope and provide attentive care. These patients have better outcomes partly through the Pygmalion effect. Doctors who expect poor outcomes or non-compliance communicate doubt and provide less engaged care. These patients have worse outcomes. The doctor's expectations become part of the treatment. Athletic coaching runs on Pygmalion effects. Coaches who believe an athlete has potential give them playing time, quality instruction, and encouragement through setbacks. The athlete develops skills and confidence. Coaches who see an athlete as limited give them bench time, minimal instruction, and criticism. The athlete stagnates. The coach thinks they correctly identified talent, but they partly created the difference in outcomes through differential treatment based on expectations. Academic tracking demonstrates institutional Pygmalion effects. Students placed in advanced tracks get better teachers, more resources, higher expectations, and challenging curricula. They learn more. Students in lower tracks get weaker teachers, fewer resources, lower expectations, and easier curricula. They learn less. The system claims to sort by ability but actually creates ability differences through unequal treatment driven by expectations. Self-expectations create Pygmalion effects on yourself. When you believe you can do something, you try harder, persist longer, and approach it with strategies that work. You tend to succeed. When you believe you can't do something, you give up faster, avoid challenges, and use ineffective strategies. You tend to fail. Your self-expectations shape your behavior in ways that make them come true. So how do you use the Pygmalion effect wisely when your expectations create reality? How do you avoid damaging people with low expectations? First, recognize that your expectations shape outcomes more than you think. When you form a belief about someone's potential, that belief influences how you treat them, which influences their actual performance. You're not just observing ability, you're partly creating it. Second, consciously hold high expectations for people unless you have strong evidence otherwise. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Assume they're capable of growth. This doesn't mean ignoring real limitations, but it means leaning toward believing in potential rather than assuming limits. Third, watch for the behaviors that communicate expectations. Are you giving someone challenging opportunities or protecting them? Are you providing detailed feedback or glossing over their work? Are you patient with their learning curve or quick to judge? These behaviors signal your expectations and create self-fulfilling prophecies. Fourth, be aware of how you receive others' expectations of you. When someone treats you like you're capable, absorb that message and live up to it. When someone treats you like you're limited, recognize that their expectations might be shaping your performance and don't internalize their limitations. Fifth, actively counter negative expectations you catch yourself forming. If you notice yourself expecting someone to fail or struggle, consciously treat them as if you expect success. Give them the behaviors that communicate high expectations even if you're not feeling confident. The Pygmalion effect can work even when you're deliberately generating it. Sixth, check whether your expectations are based on actual evidence or biases. Sometimes low expectations come from stereotypes, first impressions, or other biased sources. These expectations will create poor outcomes through the Pygmalion effect, even though they weren't based on reality to begin with. Seventh, remember that the Pygmalion effect means people can grow beyond initial assessments. Someone's current performance doesn't lock in their future potential. If you treat them as capable of growth, they're more likely to grow. Your expectations create room for development or trap people at their current level. The Pygmalion effect means your expectations about people actively create their reality. When you believe someone is capable, your behavior changes in subtle ways that make them more capable. When you believe someone is limited, your behavior changes in ways that make them more limited. You're not neutrally observing abilities. You're shaping them through the expectations you hold and the treatment those expectations generate. This happens unconsciously through multiple channels. Your expectations affect what opportunities you give people, how you respond to their efforts, what feedback you provide, and how patient you are with their development. People pick up on these signals and internalize them. Their self-concept changes. Their effort level changes. Their actual performance changes to match your expectations. The effect works powerfully in both directions. Positive expectations create upward spirals where belief leads to better treatment, leads to better performance, leads to confirmed belief. Negative expectations create downward spirals where doubt leads to worse treatment, leads to worse performance, leads to confirmed doubt. Both spirals feel like you're creating it. This makes you much more responsible for others' outcomes than most people realize. Teachers shape student achievement through expectations. Managers shape employee performance through expectations. Parents shape children's development through expectations. Partners shape each other through expectations. In all these relationships, the person holding expectations is partially creating the reality they think they're observing. Understanding the Pygmalion effect doesn't mean pretending everyone is equally capable of everything. Real differences exist. But it means recognizing that your expectations play a role in creating those differences. It means being conscious of the power your beliefs have to shape others. It means choosing to hold expectations that give people room to grow rather than expectations that trap them. The next time you form a belief about someone's potential, remember, you're not just making a prediction. You're setting in motion a process that will tend to make that prediction come true. Your expectations will change how you treat them. That treatment will change their self-concept and effort. Their performance will shift to match your expectations. You're actively creating the future you think you're forecasting. Subscribe to discover more ways your beliefs and behaviors create the reality you think you're just observing.